It was like going into a bat house. It was that dark. If you went down there, it was like, as soon as you went down there, you were grabbed. And it was like, so I was like, Freddie, no. We met at the bar, just to make it clear to him. He goes, oh, you're that bloke. I remember talking about Queen and Billy. He was talking about all these records that he loved at the moment, which was Michael Jackson's new one, The Police, some other stuff, The Fix. Anyway, it was a great conversation. It was one of the, I'm sorry I skipped, but Bill Bauman got me into the Anvil and that great moment in my life. So thank you, Bill.
Wherever you are, Bill, thank you. Bring the Freddie to the Anvil.
Yes.
So let me paint the picture of the Anvil for them across the ocean. Okay.
Try to. Sawdust on the dance floor.
That's right. I was going to say on the west side, in the meatpacking district area, in the seedy part at night. The neighborhood was rough back then.
There was a hotel above it.
That's right. There's a hotel above it, which is still there, but the Anvil,
Anvil's no there.
Anvil's no longer there. And Anvil is now been departed.
The Anvil, the Mine Shaft, all those great clubs that were underground gay clubs, very underground gay clubs, are no longer there.
Where energy goes.
Yeah, I moved to 17th Street and 8th and 9th as my first apartment. When I got the job at Danceteria, I was 18 years old. And I moved out of when I got that job and it looked like it was steady, I moved out. I moved down to that neighborhood. At that time, it was mostly Puerto Rican, that block. Now it's fabulous. And you can't even get in there. It's Chelsea, you know what I mean? Back then, they didn't even call it Chelsea, really. But it was seedy. It was my kind of New York. I got to tell you. I mean, that's the New York that I love. It was seedy. There was transvestites down the block. There was Mars also came out of the meatpacking district, later on. But it was full life, and now it's just overpriced and too fabulous for itself, as far as I'm concerned.
That was a gentrification process that happened.
Yeah. The village moved up to Chelsea, and now it's Hell's Kitchen. Now it's basically the whole,
Back in the day, you wouldn't walk. You'd be afraid to walk at night. You'd get robbed or something. Now it's
I loved it.
No, I mean, that's a New York club.
The Bronx.
Hey, let me tell you something. That was a New York clubbing that we all loved back then. The rougher it was, the better it was.
Exactly. I think you painted a good picture of it.
Kind of try. It's hard because now people come to New York. They go, "Oh, it's so beautiful." Back then, I said it was not like this.
Oh, the meatpacking district is beautiful, almost too beautiful. Because when I go there, I have these memories, and it's just like it kills me when I go there now. You got Apple, you got Keels, you got whatever else.
Remember, we used to see the blood on the street from all the butcher houses, all the blood on the street. You smell the death in the area.
The meat was in the street. They would push the meat.
Yeah, push the meat around. Like, get away, move. It's like, and we would come out of clubs 6, 7 in the morning, and they would get in the trucks loaded. Oh, it was crazy.
That's one thing I hated about coming out of after hours. I was always praying when I came out of after hours, whether I was playing there or not, that it was raining, because I hated the sunlight at 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning. I'd be in the cab light, hating myself. Why am I doing this?
How many years?
The nightlife, but
how many years did you spend at Danceteria?
I would say 5 years. 5 years. That's a picture of the second floor. I would say that looks like around 11:30 at night. It's not quite packed yet, by 1 o'clock it would be packed, and I would close all the lights. And John Argento, the owner, never Rudolph. Rudolph never had a problem with the lights. And like I said, they never told me what to play. But I would turn all the lights off because I knew people like to dance in the dark. People don't like the Palladium was a different story. They had a light show, and that was a toy that I used. But at Danceteria, the first floor had lights, but I would turn, and the second floor had lights, which I keep on. But the back lighting lights, people would like to go back there and do their own thing, so I would always turn lights off for them. And the crowd appreciated that, I believe, And when I say that they never asked me what to play, I was pretty much blessed throughout my career with Rudolph being there at 3 clubs that I played at: Mars, Palladium, and Danceteria, along with Yuki Watanabe, who owned Mars. They never told me what to play. Only time that comes to mind when we opened up at Southampton Danceteria, John Argento, the owner, said, I was DJing one night, and he said, put on a long tape or something, a reel to reel, because we're gonna go to Heartbreak, and we're gonna listen to what they play there, because you're gonna have to play a lot of that stuff. I was like, really? You're gonna go to Heartbreak? And I knew the crowd there. I was like, really? I'm gonna go to Heartbreak? So it was a very yuppie crowd, like stockbrokers and stuff in suits. So I was like, Danceteria is gonna turn into that? So we went down there in his John DeLorean automobile. It was great. And just perfect 80s John DeLorean, automobile going to Heartbreak. And we went in there, and I heard what they're playing. And they're playing the Supremes, and they're playing, Sam Cooke and all the Motown stuff. And basically, I was like, okay, I'll get all that stuff, and I'll rock that, no problem. But what turns out to be, when we went to Southampton, Rudolph imported a bunch of people on the first weekend from New York City, from Danceteria, to come out there. And it was like, I'm not playing Motown for this crowd. They want to hear what New York people, the New York Club, they're coming to Danceteria to hear Danceteria stuff. So I stuck to what I knew. And I did a little set of like rockabilly into Motown stuff. And that went over great. But I never ever changed it, never ever went to the Heartbreak thing at all. People came to Danceteria Southampton because they wanted to get that experience of what Danceteria was like. If they wanted that, they could go down the road to any other club in the Hamptons. You know what I mean?
But you know what? Nobody understands that unless you're in the position you're in when the owner tells you that. It's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And then it also works both ways. They'll tell you play what you want. And then when you got to Southampton, say that you were thinking it was going to be like the New York crowd, and say Rudolph didn't bring those people, you may have had a problem. So it worked in your favor this time that you were prepared.
I was always prepared. I was a stickler about records. I brought 6 crates of records wherever I played. 6 crates. I never, ever knew what I was going to play every night. There might have been a mix. Like I heard Jim Burgess do a mix from smack dab in the middle into Ian Dury's Reason to Be Cheerful that I do till this day. It goes, Reasons to Be Cheerful, part 3, then bam, 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 and it goes perfect. And I heard Jim Burgess do that on the radio one night, who's my second hero, not in order or anything, but Jim Burgess technically to me was a genius when it came to DJing. And I listened to him when I was very young and before I even made it into Manhattan. And but I brought music with me that I was prepared to play to anybody who came into the door. If it was a blacker crowd, if it was a Hispanic crowd, if it was a more white crowd, I was prepared. And I would play, and if they gave me back, I would give them more. They took away, I would give them something else. That's how I played. And I know guys that would play the same mixes every night, or or take out 5 records at a time and know that they're going to play that in a row. And I never got that, because you never know what the crowd's going to do from record to record. One mix could be great one night, and the next night it doesn't work the same way. That's the way it is. It's like that. And I don't know, it's just a vibe in the room.
It's organic.
Yeah, it's organic. Exactly.
It's homogenized. It's a real homogenized thing that it just has to be at the moment.
Yeah, it has to be at the perfect moment. Also, I believe it has to be in you. What you did that day, for me, affected me that night. If I was having a bad day, I go to the bar before the night starts, I have a vodka, maybe 2, and start the night up. Because if I was in a bad mood, something was bothering me, I had to get out of that and get into my music. For instance, great story. Not really a great story, a horrendous story. I was zigzagging in my Peugeot, getting to Danceteria on 5th Avenue. And it was Park Avenue. And I didn't realize why everybody stopped. There was a green light. And I'm driving. I'm like, beep, beep, beep. But I'm zigzagging there because I'm late as usual. And all of a sudden I realized, and I'm blasting my music, I realized at the last minute, while everybody stopped, there was a siren, a lamp, ambulance coming, bam, took out my whole front car. I was glad I was alive. The tow truck came, picked my car up. There was a line down the block at Danceteria. Rudolph was in the front, saw the car. I brought my records in. It was hanging off a tow truck. I brought my records in. Rudolph came up to me, brought me a bottle of, I don't know if he knew what I drank, but he just brought me a bottle of Johnny Black and said, "Here, Freddie, start the music, please." Because there was people waiting, and I was the only DJ on the set that night. Sometimes not Palladium, Danceteria would have 4 DJs. There was 5 floors. The 3rd floor was the only place that didn't have a DJ. There was a restaurant and a video lounge. And Congo Bill was on the 4th floor. The 2nd floor had a DJ, and the 1st floor had a DJ. And I also had videos also that Rico used to play. And it was that night turned into a magic night. It was a great night, even though I totaled my car. And I'll never forget that. It was just like one of the great stories. And he made my night because he didn't even come up to me with drink tickets. He just came up to me with a bottle. Start the night.
It's a banger. Here's your night. Let's go.
Yeah. It's been done. It's over. Next.
Put it behind you. Yes. Just worry about what's in front of you.
Exactly. Those people in front of you now.
Don't worry. Just look in front. That's yesterday. This is today.
Exactly. That's not quite the...
it's close, because I remember how he used to speak.
Right.
You hear that like...
It's fabulous.
It is fabulous.
If you go to, and I just saw this the other day, if you go to their website, Danceteria website, he still has if you call Danceteria up, they had an automatic voicemail, and they have this voicemail of Rudolph speaking. We welcome socialist transvestites, all kinds of things.
Socialist transvestites. So that means that they're communistic or they're socialistic? Which one is it? We invite gays, straights, communists, socialists, transvestites.
Yes, exactly. That's the way that club was. It was everybody. And everybody that worked there, the bartenders, the elevator workers, they all had their own following. Everybody was a star in that place.
But you put something really important before you say, I wanted to bring this out. Back at that era of time, music, like before house music really took off and the constant tempos of say 121 to 128 were your night. What was your night like? Because I heard rock, but I'm hearing how you were able to change the BPM through the night. A lot of places you couldn't do that.
That was the beauty of playing there, and that was the beauty of for that place to be my first major place to play. That's the way I played everywhere after that, because that's what I was known for, to play a house, to play rock and roll in the middle of a set, to put on Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting by Elton John in the middle of Saturday night, and everybody going crazy out of the middle of a house set, putting on Jaws, and then putting on the Rolling Stones or the Clash. You had to break it up in a way that was creative. You couldn't just go from a house record into a rock and roll record. You had to use your imagination, and my imagination flew wild when I heard Cayman's play, because he would play things from outer space, and I was like, I could do whatever I want here. This place is like no other club, because I as a young man, I would go to Townhouse 48, Inferno, and Underground, which I later played, and Garage, and they didn't do that. So this place, I could bring my rock and roll roots back into the fold, and it was great. It was like, and at that time, there was bands like Culture Club, The Clash, The Jam, that were putting out dance music that no other clubs were really playing. Like Vinyl Mania had another store just for that. I would go get my records at Vinyl Mania from Manny Lehman, and then I would go across the street to the alternative place and spend another $100, every Thursday night or Friday night, because that was the thing. There was about 10 of us that were really breaking records at that time. Like, who broke that record? Mark broke a lot of records. Larry broke a lot of records. I broke some records. Justin Strauss at Area broke some records.
Bruce Forrest
at Better Days broke a lot of records. It was like, not even records sometimes. People bringing cassettes, like Arthur playing a cassette, and I was the first one to play that Crash Goes My Love. So I was like, I got first dibs on that. I broke that record. It was like a little convention of DJs that had their names on records to break, and it was important to be the first one to play that record. It really was. And that was fun.
What's the most, besides the Lenita Holloway record, like, for example, we all know about Mark Kamin's with the Madonna situation. Was there a record somebody brought you that you discovered and helped through that club get signed?
I know for a fact, like New Shoes, I Can't Wait. I brought that to Bruce Carbone after I played it the weekend. I said, I played it 3 times, Bruce. You got and Larry Yasgar. You got to hear this record, and they signed that record right away. Bruce had great ears, and Larry had great ears. They made a great team, great dance team. They were known for that. Voices of Fashion, I played first, and then they let me do a mix of it.
You mean only in the night?
Only in the night. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that Danceteria let me play house and a little freestyle. I know I was never a big freestyle person per se, but I did play a lot of it on the radio because that's what Hot 103 wanted me to play. And after 1 o'clock, I went into what I really wanted to play when I was playing on the radio. From 11 to 1, I gave them what they want from Studio 54 and stuff like that.
Was that Studio 54 Hot 103 done to Eddie Rivera?
No, that was done through Bob Caviano.
Bobby took care of Ray's brother, right? Bob Caviano.
Right. And Larry would play on Thursdays. I would play on Fridays. Louis played on Saturdays. And then we'd switch it up sometimes. And the funny thing about that, a good story about that, is after playing really what they their set list. They never gave me a set list to play, but I knew their audience wanted to hear freestyle, and that they were coming in. They promoted it so much on Hot 103. It was a freestyle station. It really was. So I did my hot mixes to make it more enjoyable for me to play, like the Cover Girls mix and Michael Jackson and what other mixes that I did that slipped my mind. I did In Excess. I did George Michael. I did Jody Watley. Some other ones that were lost in my unit that got flooded, but that's another story.
What a shame.
but after 1 o'clock, I said that was the time that, all right, now I could do my house thing and I could really play my classics. And this is what Larry would come at that time. And because he knew he wasn't really into freestyle at all. So we would come and I would play my thing. But I made this joke record with a guy named Pablo Toto. His name was Paul Trinidad. And as a joke, I did it on an 8-track at home. It was called Dame Chocha. And I put it on a reel-to-reel, and the place went nuts. They were going, he goes, anybody say Dame Chocha? And the place was Dame. I mean, it was like, I was like, this is a joke. I made this as a joke. I didn't mean this to be real. And Aaron Fuchs was there from Tough City. And he said, he came into the booth. He was like, what is this? I was like, this is just a joke record. It's not meant to do anything. I mean, it's 8-track. I can make it better. He goes, no, don't do anything to it. I want it. And Aaron wasn't known for his money. He paid us cash. I don't want to say how much, but it was a lot for him. And from that relationship came the relationship that brought on Corporation of One. Pablo Toto was born out of that. We made 3 albums out of it. And we made some like good money from Aaron Fuchs, which was I was told was like, taking money from I don't know what to say, but it was very hard to get money from him. Let's put it that way.
Basically, like from Meyer Lansky, you had to get no money.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say something like that, but I didn't want to go there. But so I played this thing at 1:30, but at the station, they still had me going, which I didn't know. There was a person there, I'm not going to mention names. He was there. He got let go because of that, because he was supposed to turn me off. He had me. So in every taxi cab in Manhattan and every party going on in Manhattan, they had me playing house into Dame Chocha. And the record starts, hello. Does anybody out there like to eat pussy? Because my name's Pablo Toto. Boosh, dash, boom, boom, dash, boom. Stupid beat, just the stupidest hip-hop beat you could manage that I just played for stupid. And the reason why we came up with it was we constantly would have Scarface playing in my apartment on 16th Street. And we just got the idea to do a stupid record like that. And Pablo was there, and he was like, we're really going to put this out? This record's going to come out? And we made a whole album of X-rated numbers. And the only X-rated number that wasn't was Ecstasy. We did a remake of Ecstasy by Barry White. And it was a great version of it. But we did Chocha Beach, which became a kind of a little underground cult classic, and which was really Orchard Beach, but Chocha Beach. So I know we're not supposed to curse on this, but
that's all right. Chocha.
It's in Latin.
But here's the thing. Let me explain, everybody. Freddie's crowd at studio was a Puerto Rican crowd, Bridge and Tunnel. So, of course, for him to play that time of night, that crowd erupted because hearing Puerto Rican lyrics, Spanish lyrics coming from the barrio style, made those kids erupt. I remember that. And they did. And they would let you know it.
They did. I played it again later on that night because Aaron asked for it. Larry was appalled by it. He's like, what is this shit? But Bob Caviano came running up to the booth. What is this? And the next week, not the next week, 2 weeks later, Pablo was doing his first show at Studio 54 with 2 dancers. And him, I don't know if you remember how big Pablo was, but he was a big boy. And he could move for a big boy. He used to go to the garage and dance. All right, for a big boy, he could do his garage dances. So he's no longer with us. Rest in peace, Paul Trinidad.
Oh, he did die? He did pass away? I didn't know.
From diabetes, yeah.
Like everybody we know, yeah.
Yeah. But that album, that Tough City Avenue opened up a lot of bridges for me and airwaves for me to get across to the UK, because the Corporation of One became a #1 record. The Real Life became a #1 record in the UK during that whole rave scene and the Hacienda and everything. I went over to the UK, played the Hacienda, played raves that Vito Bruno put together, that English promoters put together. I was from 88 to 92. I was in and out of the UK at least 6-7 times. And Steve Budd, I got a manager over there that got me mixes over there. I would say that for my mixing, doing my remixes and production, I would say I'd made more money from the UK than the US because of that.
Isn't that funny?
And till this day, my last remix I did was Culture Club, which I just did last year.
Meanwhile, those records like the Pablo Toto record, which probably went gold 10 times over just in New York.
And I made it on an 8-track. I
forgot to mention, but he made it on a little cassette 8-track.
Right.
But here's the thing. No big studio, right in his house. What drum, here's a question for you. You said you knocked out the drums. Do you remember what drum machine you used for that thing?
An Akai 1200.
SP12?
Yeah.
Okay, you used SP1200. Okay. Because it had that raw sound. I mean, it had that.
Yeah.
8-bit sound, 12-bit drum sound. Yeah.
Yeah. It's even more elating and gratifying to know that your record did well by using such shit equipment. It's an accomplishment. You know what I mean? So I'm very proud of that record.
Look, Ma, I can make records, garbage shit, Ma. Look,
real house. This is real house music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you were around the right people. You had the right people and the right situation to exploit that. Let's not forget, you were right in what we call in the city, in New York City, in the melting pot, to be able to break a record. If you believed in somebody's record and you played it just on that night alone between Hot 103 or whatever, and that crowd was a massive hit already within a week.
But the thing is also, I was known here in the States and especially in New York. But then when I went to Europe for the first time, I remember going to Polydor because Polydor wanted to sign the Tough City records that I produced. And I had a meeting. And the guy's name was Chris Perry. So Chris Perry came out, and there was 2 black gentlemen hanging out with me. Not hanging out with me, but they were waiting for a meeting also. So Chris came out and said, he looked at one of them and said, "Freddie, you can come in." And I looked at him and I said, "Is your name Freddie too?" He goes, "No, I'm not Freddie." I said, "Chris, I'm Freddie." So he thought that one of the black guys was the Corporation of One, not me. Because the name of the album, the Corporation of One album, was Black Like Me, off in one of my favorite books. I named it Black Like Me.
Meanwhile, let me show everybody what you looked at around that time. Hang on, everybody. Take a good look. This is what Freddie kind of looked like back in the day.
That was after the Corporation of One, that was just Bastone.
That's what I'm saying, but I'm saying that's how he looked. So just take that into consideration. They're looking for the dark-skinned dude or Spanish dude or black dude, and here comes this guy from America.
That's exactly what I look like. And
that picture always reminded me when Jelly Bean did the same thing with the Elise Fiorello. He had the long hair. It was around that same time. Everybody had all the guys were all tracking the long hair.
Steve Thompson had the long hair also.
Steve as well. A lot of the guys had long hair. It was the look of the time. It was the 80s.
Right. Late 80s, yeah.
Thank God it wasn't a mullet.
I've never done a mullet. Never did. Can't get any pictures of me with a mullet.
Freddie, to be honest with you, I could never have grown my hair that long. What's that involved, growing your hair like that?
What do you mean? You just don't cut it. You get it trimmed every once in a while. The style. I mean, if you look at that picture, there was style to it. It wasn't just a...
No, I know that. So I'm saying, what's involved? I mean, you're not getting hair extensions. You got to go each time. You want it to
hair
grow.
Extensions? No. I did that once in Barbados. That was it. They put the beads on me. That was
So basically, you had that Bo Derek look?
Yes, and you know what? I did that Barbados trip. Me and Bruce Carbone wanted to go to like a place where it was like a good place for singles. You know what I mean? So we wind up going there, and we get into this hotel, and the first thing we see is just a bunch of couples, and we're like, well, where's the rest of the women? Where's the women at? And we start going around the pool, and who's in the pool but the first man to give me my first job in the music business, John Luongo. John Luongo is in the pool.
John Luongo's in the pool?
In the pool. He's the first, and that's the man that started me really in the business. When it came to Danceteria, he came to Danceteria one night. He heard me play. He asked me to come to his office and asked me to promote the records that he was producing and putting out. And I said, of course I will. He was a legend. He was one of the first remixers that ever lived, from Boston. And he did some great stuff, Jack. John Waite was, one of his records that he did, Blamage. He produced Blamage. I was in the studio with him when he was producing it. I would watch him come home from the studio, 24 hours being in the studio. That's when he used to go to the studio and do lockouts for 24 hours because they would get good deals for them back then. And so I would watch him splice the tape together. The guy never rested. He was a workaholic. I really thought I learned a lot about work ethic from John Luongo. That was my first job ever in the business.
Now, was that at Pavilion? Was it when he had Pavilion Records?
Exactly. Pavilion Records.
So was Pavilion at the Sony building, or was it a separate or whatever?
It was at you know where the Sheffield is in New York City? It's on 57th Street?
Yes.
That's where it was. He lived there. He lived there, and he had an office next door. So I was his promoter for the Rock Pool people. If you remember that, Rock Pool was run by Mark Josephson.
Hold on a second. Hold on, everybody. This is where we hear DOR, dance-orientated rock music. This is what he's talking about, everybody, right here.
Right there. And he asked me, because Danceteria was known for its alternative stuff, to promote to the DJs because the other person that was working there, Ray Alessi, was a DJ in Brooklyn, but he was just completely disco and would not touch alternative stuff. So John needed somebody because he was starting to produce Falco, Blamage, John Waite, like I said, and many other things that people like don't know John for. He was doing a lot of alternative things, So right then and there, I said, you got it. I got you. As long as I could come in the studio and watch, that would be.
That's what I was going to ask you.
That's better than being paid for me. You know what I mean? Even though I got paid, that was that took it over the wall for me to be in the studio.
So, Freddie, give us the picture then. Was Steve Thompson working in the other room? Was it like that? Was that all going on? Because I remember they were all working at a Sigma and media, a lot of places.
John always worked at Sigma, and it was a great studio. It was like a very high price studio. Me, on the other hand, when I started my remixing, I did it at Unique and Shakedown. And because I was comfortable with the people there, it was more about who was there, who was hanging out there. At Shakedown, it was always a creative force there. It was Latin Rascals were always there. They were my friends. Arthur, John Roby, like I said. And Shep was always there. Junior was there. And at the time, Junior really wasn't doing mixes. He was doing edits for Arthur, and then he got into his remixing. Unique was another place that I felt comfortable at because of there was a lot of editors there that I worked with.
Gail Sky King too worked out of there, right?
Yes, she did. And we all did the same studios, the main studios, and then there was the edit room where I worked with Carlos Berrios on edits there, Shep Nunez, and then Tudo Aquino started his own place called Prime Cuts, which was just for edits. And then all the editors worked out of that place.
People, that's some real New York history right there. And amongst all that right there was all that powerhouse of talent working in one spot. So could you imagine what the people were talking about amongst sessions? Who's mixing Noel, who's doing this, who's doing that. It's crazy.
Everybody was going into each other. Arthur was always coming into the studio. What are you doing? I was doing Judas Priest. You're doing Judas Priest? How the hell did you get that mix? Gail Bruce she knew who to call. I would love when I got that Judas Priest mix, I was like in heaven. I'm mixing Judas Priest as a dance mix. You know what I mean? Turbo Lover. And I got a gold record, a silver gold record. It was a platinum record for that. It was just like Tony would come in. And if I didn't think I had the edit just quite right, I would say, Tony, do you think I was exhausted? Do you think you could do something with this record? And he would listen to it. If Tony would be totally honest and Albert they would be really honest. No, we couldn't do it. The Turbo Lover, they didn't touch. They didn't feel it. You know what I mean? Because it was like,
you got to understand that music. If you don't get it, it's hard to work on it.
What you got to appreciate from Tony and Albert for being honest. They weren't just doing it for the money. They were real artists. They were artists. They weren't just editors. They would bring a lot to the table to a mix. And then I would just out of nowhere, if I was in the neighborhood of Shakedown, I would go up and visit Arthur and see what he was up to, and then say, "Hey, I got a mix coming. Can I book it here?" And Arthur was always accommodating. Whatever work around. He would leave his session to make sure that I could come in and do my mix. I did Rod Stewart there. Voices in Fashion I did there, and Shep did the edits for that one. Shep Nunez, who no longer is with us.
He was one of the best editors of the day.
Yes, he was.
Omar Santana. I always think of Omar Santana, and even back then, Benji Candelaria was just starting to edit stuff.
That's right.
Benji was coming up. So there was a lot of good talent out of that community right there, right in that one spot. It was like Victor Simonelli started working for
because after you do a 24-hour session, a mix session, you do one day of recording, then you do the next day without breaks. And my manager at the time was Brad LeBeau. And Brad LeBeau was a great manager. And he always had me working. And it got to the point where I was DJing and being in the studio so much that the latter days of our relationship got a little weathered because I would wake up and be like, where am I today? And not really doing my homework on the mixes that I should have been, because I was out hanging out too much. And instead of doing my homework on the mix that I should have been doing, and relying on my old tricks instead of doing my homework that I was doing in the beginning, So,
but there's a reason for all that, because you thought you were missing something outside hanging out. That's what happened to all of us. We had to go hang out too.
Yes. But hanging out with me turned into hanging out at the club and going to another club and then going to an after hours. And then I had to be in the studio at 12. So I wouldn't get to the studio at 12. I get there at 2. And so 2 hours be wasted. That means that we have to rush a little bit. And I remember a record on Epic called Basics, or Tears of a Clown. We did the old Smokey record. And I remember that mix not coming out right. And I said to myself, I gotta stop with the whole after hours cocaine thing and get back to what I was doing. But it was hard to do that because wherever Freddie went, there was a party. And wherever Freddie went, the party went. So it was like I had people like, where you going tonight, Freddie? And it was like my answer machine, and it was calling me. It was calling me. And I was addicted to the nightlife, addicted to the crowd that wanted me around. And Pablo was also part of that whole thing, and he was a big, party guy. So it was like wherever Freddie went, it was, whether the after hours was Baseline or the after hours was Hollywood, where I used to DJ. It got in the way of work. I have to say, it definitely got in the way of work, and that pulled my relationship with Brad apart, because he also was going out, experiencing and so his management was being shaken by it. So the whole thing came to a crumbling, debacle, so to speak.
So in the background, I could hear, if this was a movie, I could hear, what's her name singing, who sang Feel the Spin. Rush, rush to the yayo.
Yeah.
Rush to the yayo.
Perfect song to that. If this was a VH1 or MTV show, it would be like one of those rock bands that fizzled out because of the cocaine and all that. It was exactly like that. I didn't want to turn this into a cliche.
No, but you had to. No, but you got to tell us a reason, because this is what brings out the best and the worst in everybody.
Right.
There is something to be said about this business. I remember Judy Weinstein and I would always say the same thing. This is a hard, tough business on everybody. And a lot of great talent fails because of the nightlife part of it,
right?
Of nonstop partying. So I'm glad you're bringing this out.
I mean, the DJing never suffered. The DJing never suffered from it.
But there's business now, because you're not just a DJ anymore.
Right.
Now you're Freddie Bastone, the producer, the remixer, A&R guy, all these extra components,
right,
that are just not functioning like a banker. You're functioning like a clubber.
But there was places like the Hacienda with Michael Pickering that loved that stuff, that loved that part of me. Freddie's a partier. He's great here. He'd be great for this place. You know what I mean? Or when I worked at Heaven in London, everybody in London loved me to be the party guy.
Nikki Holloway sent a hello, by the way. I saw him say, Nikki Holloway, tell him I saw him first. But that's the thing. They all love that. If you show that side, they being how let's put it like this, it's complementary to the nightlife. The drugs, the alcohol is all there because everybody wants to make you feel comfortable. It's so easy to keep partying.
Right.
Good or bad,
And listen, if you're doing 48 hours of studio and then you got to go and DJ at the Palladium, you're going to be calling your guy at 12 o'clock because you're like, I got to make it to 5 o'clock in the morning and I need a little juice. And that's what was going through my brain, you know, and when that guy showed up, that party took off again because it was a little lull from 12 to 1. And then all of a sudden, that guy came by, boom, here we go again. We're rocking till 5. And the Palladium to me was a big toy. It was lights. It had video. It was like me getting into a spaceship and having all the toys at my disposal. I had a light guy that I would say, hey, we're going to play Pink Floyd, Welcome to the Machine next. And he'd look at me like I was crazy, but he was really into it. He would be really into it. And I'm like, all right, ready? Bang, boom. I was the first one in New York to have the 1200 CD player I took back from Japan with me. And I was using it as a stuttering. It would go da 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 da. I would just play with it and not really read the instructions, but really play with it. Because that in Japan, they gave it to me at the Genesis Club that Yuki Watanabe, the owner of Mars, set me up with this tour. And I did this place that just opened up, the grand opening, the Genesis Club in Osaka. And the place went nuts. I'll never forget playing there. But I remember pre them opening me working it, because the only CD player I used before that was a little handheld portable one that I would put on foam so it wouldn't vibrate. But this thing was like a monster. It was the same size as a turntable, if you remember them.
Of course, it's dark gray. Had the buttons. I remember it clear as day. You said
speed control and everything. And I just played with it for about 3 hours before the club opened, and that's all I really knew. I never read the instructions. The guys from Sony that were there, from Techniques, they couldn't speak English, so they couldn't tell me anything really. And they really, as far as I was concerned, they weren't showing me anything. They were just like, do, go, play, and that's what I did. I just was tricking it and playing with it. And at the Palladium, using the reel-to-reel as an echo, as a delay, and then playing people's stuff that came by with it, or test pressings. Mostly at that time, by the Palladium, people weren't bringing me reels anymore. They were bringing me test pressings or cassettes. Or I would much rather have a reel, but I liked my reel to be there for my delays. But like I was getting back into it, I would play Pink Floyd. The lights would come down, play Jaws, the lights would come down, they'd bring the lights, the smoke, the crowd would going crazy, woo, 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 play The Godfather in the middle of the night, then break into whatever, at that point of the night would strike me as going with the crowd. Because like I said, I played with the crowd, they give me, I give them back. That's how I played. And that club, Steve, like I said, I was blessed by owners never asking me to play anything. Steve Rebell did ask me to play things, not things, only one thing. He would just come up to me by 4 o'clock in the morning when he was a little tipsy, and then he would just say, just play Diana. And that would be it. I'd play Diana Ross, and he'd be a happy man. And the rest of the booth would be happy. As long as Steve's happy, we would all be happy, because he'll always be there. I have a story about Steve that, I was going to the bathroom one night, and his office was right across from the men's bathroom. And he told me to come in. And he had some bumps there. And I did some bumps, and I said, my uncle, I said to him out of nowhere, because that's what it does to you. It just makes you talk, doesn't it? So I said to him, my uncle was in jail with you, Steve. And he looked at me like crazy, like, why would you bring this up? And he goes, what's your uncle's name? I said, Joey Bastone. And he looked at me like he was going to cry. He just grabbed me and held me like this. And he goes, Joey, I know Joey. I don't even know where the conversation went, but I just remember that moment was like so embedded in my mind that night. And so many things you forget from the Palladium, from Danceteria, but that moment was just like something that, because he did some time for tax evasion and things like that.
Oh, Joey, your uncle too, did some things for. He went to Fed. He went to Club Fed.
Yeah, Club Fed. That's it.
Which really not really a club, but it wasn't.
It's much better than the other.
It's not like Rikers, basically. It's not like going to Attica.
Well, listen, Rikers right now. I don't know if the rest of the world knows this, but Rikers is in really bad shape. Rikers Island is a jail in New York City that human beings shouldn't even be on. It's really bad. But yeah, that story is embedded in my mind. But the Palladium was, like I said, a big toy in my hands that I controlled. It was a huge place that I used to go as a young man, as a young boy, go see concerts in. I saw Judas Priest there. I saw Pat Benatar there. I saw many rock and roll bands there. It was like a weekly thing going to the Palladium to see bands. And it turned into this great place. I believe I have the longest tenure as a DJ there. I played there from the third week it was open to, I believe, 92, 93. So it was a pretty long tenure. I played Friday nights, Saturday nights. I believe it was Saturday nights.
Yeah, and I think after you, it was Charlie Casanova took over, right? If I remember.
I'm not sure. I know. Mojo played some. I know Junior did his nights there.
That's later. That's Arena.
Yeah.
Right around when you left.
Yeah. So there was a great manager there. His name is David Miskett. Just want to mention his name. He always made sure that I was on time and doing my job.
On time, that you were on time.
I was never really late at the Palladium because it was more corporate there. It was very corporate. It wasn't like Danceteria. I learned that very quickly because as soon as you walk in, it was an office and they paid you by check. And I never got paid by check by anybody until the Palladium. I was really pissed at that.
We need your SSN number. Why?
Exactly.
What the hell you need my SSN number? You're going to get paid by check. What? That was the same like Gations clubs. You worked for Peter Gation, you're on payroll if you worked in the town.
I never ever worked for Peter Gation. Again, the Palladium was Rudolph. If it wasn't for Rudolph and Larry championed me in. Because Larry played Thursday nights. And let me tell you, when Larry played Thursday night there, I got to tell you, that was some of the best Larry's nights. You could talk about the garage. You could talk about the garage till you blue in the face. But Larry, that wasn't his crowd. But he worked that crowd. He really did. I didn't think he could pull it off. And he did.
Yeah, it was different for him. That wasn't no normal garage crowd.
No.
Well, I'm glad you put that up now because I know you were really good friends with him.
We're very good friends, yeah.
Yeah, and I also remember hearing there was a time when you had looked after Larry when a king falls from grace, basically.
Well, I wouldn't call it looking after him. I wish I could have done more. But we weren't in the beginning when the garage was open. Didn't even know Larry. I got to know Larry through the John Luongo thing by promoting records. That's how I got into the garage, by promoting records. And there was a bouncer there named Junior, who I was friends with, that would let me come up to the booth. Hello, Junior, if you're out there. And that's how I got into the booth. I bought my first record, Pink Pink Rhythms by John Roca. Can't Get Enough of My Love, which was on Metropolis Records, which was distributed through Emergency, which Curtis Abina and Sergio Cosa put me through. That was my second job. That was my third job. My second job was A&R for Profile. And then I went to Emergency to do A&R. So this is going back now, I would say. So my relationship with Larry started right around 86, 87. And then we bought the Blaze record to him, of course. And he loved that. That became a garage classic. And after that Blaze record, he knew I had something. And we went out to dinner a couple of times, but his health was in great shape. He was doing great then. But as his health deteriorated, and he lost his records, which I could relate to now, and he is. A lot of people turned their back on him. All I could say. Maybe they didn't turn it back on him, but maybe they didn't pay attention to him as much. And I basically said he didn't really have a place to stay. He was staying at Bob's sometimes, and I lived 2 blocks away from Bob's. I was on 51st and 7th, and Bob was on 8th Avenue. And basically, I said, "Listen, you could stay here. I just can't have the needles because I grew up with that, watching somebody close to me, have a problem with it, and the needle thing scared me." And he stayed for in and out 3 months. This was like the last year of his life. And then one day I went into the bathroom and he was unfortunately there and had a needle. And I said, "I can't have this," because it brought up too many, and it's bringing up feelings now. And I can't have this. And to this day, I wish I never did ask him to leave, but I had to.
I'm going to share this with Freddie. Larry had a very big constitution, and he knows this because you're dealing with Larry. I was with David Lozada on St. Mark's Place, and Larry said to me, "Bitch, give me $5." And I'll never forget. And David was like, "Don't give that bitch no money like that." And I'm like, "I'm gonna give it to him." He says, "Bitch, if you don't give me this $5, I'm gonna go get it from somebody else. And you know what I'm gonna do with it. So give it to me." That's right. How he was.
Right.
And I tell people all the time,
Right.
We weren't gonna stop him. You or no one was gonna stop him doing what he was doing.
Listen, this is a story between me and you, but now it's out in the world. We're in my place on 16th Street, my first apartment. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. From all night hanging out. Went to his, this is after he played a Thursday, and I have to play Friday night. I had to play that night at the Palladium. And we're all, Pablo's there, my friend Edwin's there, Mike's there, all my buddies. All my whole little crew. And Larry's in my kitchen where we could see him. And we're doing the thing. And Larry comes back with, like he did a science project in my kitchen. I swear to God. He came back with a big bottle of Pepsi, empty, straw sticking out. He says, "We're doing this for real now. Stop with the bullshit." We did that. I got up. I had the long hair. I got up out of my mind, went to a hairstylist, said, "Cut it all off." Larry loved my hair. He said, I walked back in to the house an hour later. They were still there, all wide-eyed. Exactly. Wide-eyed, walked in. He was like, everybody's mouth went, dropped. And
What'd you do, Freddie? What'd you do?
Everybody's head that was, especially Larry, everybody that was high were no longer high. They were no longer high that night. So enough. That's my last drug story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, so when did we clean up, Freddie? Come on now, because I know you must have had that moment with Jesus, where you.
No, I never had a moment with Jesus.
You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden you go, I had enough of this. I can't do this anymore. Something just is a breaking point.
Unfortunately, it happened way later in the music business. Because the music business, like you said, is tough to be in. It's always around you. There's stronger people like Brad LeBeau, who's a very strong man in my eyes, who was really clean and sober for years. I can't say that, you know. I went to a football game a couple of weeks ago and had beers, you know. So I'm not Mr. Clean Sober, but there's no other things going on in my life like that. It's not even in the culture anymore. You know what I mean? And I'm glad. It's not like, you know, I went to an opening the other night, a premiere, and I still, once I get into a club, I still get itches. Like, is there a line at the bathroom? Because if there's a line at the bathroom, that means there's something going on. So there wasn't a line at the bathroom, so I was happy.
Those are the memories of the true clubbing scene. That's it, and the smell of ether in the air.
There was a place called Save the Robots, and you would go in there. As soon as you go in there, you get on the line at the bathroom, and go to the bathroom. There's a line. Once you got out of the bathroom, you go to the bar and get the shittiest vodka that they sold, shittiest vodka that you buy, and then you go to the back of the line to get back into the bathroom. That's what Save the Robots was. I mean, Roman was a great DJ that DJ'd there, DJ Roman, and I think E-Man played there too. But I didn't go there to dance. I went there to do that. And it seemed like 500 other people did the same thing. But getting back to the music, I had a period with Curtis Urbina, who's very spiritual, you know, and I would come in 2:00 in the afternoon, you know. They hired me and they knew what they were getting. They didn't want me to be out all night long, but I would come in and be, you know, where Curtis would be like, so where were you last night? You know? And I would go into Curtis's room and I wanted to play him a record, and he'd be doing yoga, you know, and I'd be like, Curtis, I got to play something. Not now. But I really got to play. Not now. So I'd close the door. But with me, it'd be like, he'd open my door right away. Play this. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? You know, with me, it was, I haven't had any sleep. But he would let me go there and sleep and be there for work. He gave me the key to the place. So if I got out of an after hours, which is right in the neighborhood, I used to DJ at Hollywood, this place that Johan owned, another great owner. And it was right around the block. So he let me go right into emergency. I'd sleep in my office and people come in. I was ready for action as soon as the people come in. And we did some great things at emergency, made some really great records. Like at Profile, first signing I ever did was Paul Hardcastle. I brought Paul Hardcastle, Rainforest, and 19 into the mix there. That was from going to see Manny and him playing me a record, and it's like, give me that record. You know, that was most of my A&R. A&Ring to me wasn't going to see bands. A&Ring was getting records.
Right, you walk into a record shop, hear something, I gotta grab this record, and you go
bringing imports in. That's and it went from Profile, went to Emergency, from Emergency went to Epic. Where Epic, I wasn't in house. I said I told them that I could not do in house because I was DJing every night. It was literally DJing every night or in the studio. So they gave me a contract where they would pay me quarterly to bring in stuff. So I brought in their first house record, Full House, Communicate. And then Michael Kaplan and I did the group Will to Power. And
Succeed, right? Was the record Succeed? Will to Power?
Yeah, it was Succeed. And then they did the Frampton cover, Baby I Love Your Way. And I'm trying to remember the good. I'm trying to remember the head of the label's name right now. It'll come to me. But that was my A&R lineage right there that I did. But I brought in a lot of things to them that were maybe a little too house, but the Communicate really hit. That was their first thing. But it didn't hit really the way we wanted it to hit. It didn't hit nationally like Colonel Abrams hit. You know, that's what we were really going for. Colonel Abrams really was like the peak of what house music was doing at pop house.
Oh, so you're talking about when MCA had The Speculation and all those records,
right.
when Trap came out, when the records crossed from Music Is the Answer, which was on Streetwise Arthur's label, to Trapped.
Right. Music Is the Answer is still one of my favorite records.
Yo, that dub, I still rock that dub to this day.
I played the dub 2 weeks ago, yeah.
And I got to also hear Release the Tension. You gotta release. That's a New York garage all-time record. Like, there's certain staples that whenever you are hearing them, you just know what year it was. You remember them like that.
I mean, there's so many clubs that I played at in New York that I brought all, like I said, I bring 6 crates of records with me. So all these records kind of mishmash into, I played the Red Parrot. I played the other name that they gave Red Parrot, which was, I made a list. The Sapphire Club, which was a great club, which was a small club in the East Village, was a great club that I played at. I don't know if you ever was there. Mr. Fuji's. You played there? I like the sound system wasn't one of the best, but
Ellsworth Street,
Eldridge.
Yeah, Eldridge. Yeah, on the east side. Yeah,
right. And 4D. I did a lot of radio shows from 4D.
That's right. You and Scott Blackwell.
That's right. And I played at La Barbat, but I wouldn't say that I was a resident at La Barbat because I played there maybe 6-7 times. And like I said to you before, if I play someplace that many times, I don't consider myself a resident. I have to be playing 3 months, 4 months to say that I played there as a resident. You know what I mean? Some people say they played at a club one place one time, and they're like, "Yeah, I played there." I'm like, really? When did you play?
Well, you know, wait, Freddie, hang on, baby. The problem is, back in the day, there was no Google. There was none of that. So, and now most of the people we remember are no longer with us that remember anything. There's a few of us that remember, but most people don't remember.
So people can bullshit their way through this, right?
So now it's more like just write your resume and put every freaking club name that's in New York on there.
You know, I was so excited about doing this interview because of one thing, a lot of things, but one major thing was Wikipedia had just like 3 sentences on me, and I was really pissed off about it. And then I checked it today, and they got like a full thing about me. So I apologize to Wikipedia. They got their shit together. But I don't know who wrote the first review about me, but he doesn't know me at all. So I'm glad we're getting this all out in the open today.
No,
thank you for having me.
Well, it wasn't easy because I had to make sure you weren't stuck in the Hollywood moment because I was worried if you were going to be, you know, I want to tell everybody something. Don't forget, our man here is on silver screen. He leaves the DJing world for a minute, and not really leaves it, but he takes another right turn to another career. And this is what I'm waiting to hear, where this transition happens, because I don't know. See, there is no Wikipedia that says Freddy Bastone left the turntables behind and the headphone hung, and then he went to go work at the movie theater. So let's see how that happened. Freddie, we got the whole part. Where did the Hollywood thing, or should I say Broadway musical thing happen?
Well, no, I never did a musical ever in my life. I probably never will with this voice. But I had a great friend named Michael Santoro, who's a great actor, and he was a bouncer at Danceteria and the Palladium. And one night, I don't know if it was after the Palladium or it was after the Palladium, because that was a year. It was like 92. He said, I was doing my Pacino and doing my things and making people laugh after the clubs are closed, and we were all around the bar. And basically, he said, you should really go to this acting class that I'm in. Marcia Hoffrick, she's a great coach. So I went. I remember my first time getting in front of people. I didn't even turn around. I was scared shit. But as I did this thing called method, I really internalized a lot of the stuff from my past, and that's what method is. You make the character yours, and then you speak the lines. And a lot of stuff was coming out of me, and the coach really noticed a lot of. I guess she noticed something in me that I had, and I noticed that she noticed. So I stuck with it. She put me in a bunch of off Broadway plays. Hurly Burly, I did the lead. Those Are River Keeps, I did the lead. And these are 2-hour plays. And they're deep plays. They're they're comical, but they're dark comedy. From there, I got a good agent. Did all the Law and Orders, did the Sopranos. My first one was New York Undercover was my first TV thing, and I robbed a priest on that one.
How many episodes of Sopranos did you do?
Two. Yeah, the first season. That my name was Batman because I beat somebody up with a bat and threw somebody off a bridge. So that was, and with this voice, I don't think I'll ever get to be a good guy because I've done 2 cop roles and independents. And they're both bad cops on the take, dealing drugs. I think I sorely believe it's this voice that I have, this Rod Stewart thing going on. I can't sing like him, but I speak with this.
Well, you got that raspy sound. It's a rasp. It's dark. It's a dark type, like a sinister.
Right. So I can never be a good lawyer. I'm not going to be. Maybe I could be.
Yes, you can. You do the Al Pacino. Hold on, you're right on order.
Yes, I was going to say, like Angels in America, he played that lawyer. That was incredible. So yes, maybe there is room for that. Thank you for giving me hope.
How often are you working up until, of course, COVID? I mean, how much stuff are you working on in this side of the business now?
COVID was I'm going to say was horrendous to me because I lost my mother, but it was a blessing to me because I started writing a script. Because like music, for me, I got into music. I love music. How am I going to get into music? How can I get people to know me? I got to make my own music because people aren't hiring me enough. So that's what I did with music. So that's what I'm doing with this script right now. I'm not getting the attention that I believe I should be getting as an actor. So I'm writing my own script to put out there. And I got people interested, working on the ending to make it bang, to make it really bang. Because the script is banging up until the ending. The ending is not right yet. And it's not going to be, I'm not going to shop it. Although I do have people with money, I'm not going to shop it until it's the ending is right. I'm not going to spoil the ending. Although I've seen plenty of movies where the ending is just like, what? Like I just saw The Saints of Newark. And that was... anyway, Uh, I'm not going to say anything more. I mean, the ending was just, the ending has to be, to me, has to be as strong as the middle of the plot. So that's what I'm working out on right now.
Yeah, but that's what I tell people is like when you're making a record, it's got to be right from beginning to end. If it's not right, forget it.
Right. I mean, the ending, especially today's songs that aren't the songs that we used to make. We used to thrive to make 7 and 8 minute records. I go to Beatport, and there's records that the 12 inches are 4:25 and 5 minutes long. If they're 5 minutes, that's a long mix now. So I'm like, I bug out.
Do you know why that is?
Is it because of laziness? I don't know.
No, I'll explain why. Simply because it's the generation gap of what happened with the internet and the flashing constantly of the changes that were going on. So people's
attention
spans are shorter now, which have now pushed us, inclusive of, say, Spotify. They were the first. They said, we don't want those long mixes. We want a 2.5 minute version, so that not even radio, 2.5 minute edit of the record, because people are not going to sit there and listen 5, 6, 7, 10 minutes, 12 minutes to a record. They're the ones that changed it. So everybody's following the suit. But I know what you mean. It's like, what happened to the long 12-inch?
I find myself when I'm working on Tractor, I'll extend the break. With Tractor, I'll do an 8 bar break, and I'll loop it so I could get my mix in on the break, because these breaks are like four bars long, and then go back into vocals. You know what I mean? So thank God for Tractor for that.
Also, let me ask you this. Is it easier for you to produce records now, or was it better back then for you?
Oh, I'll say now because I'm at work, but to be totally honest, it was more fun making records back then, having an engineer like Bruce Miller, who was like we would come to the studio and I would be like, this is what Queen did on this record from 1976. Do you hear this going back and forth in the background? Or the Pink Floyd, where this dog bark on animals is going from the first minute to the 8th minute of the song, but it's in the background and it comes around. I want to do that. We're going to do that today. This is what we're going to do. And it was like I had an engineer that was, yeah, we're going to do that. And he dialing up numbers and just playing with things. And we're playing with numbers, not really knowing what we're dealing with. We're juggling with, not knowing. I went to audio school research, and they basically taught me math. And nobody in the studio does math. Okay? We don't do it. We play with fiddle.
Wait. So it's like when you had to learn algebra, calculus, and geometry and all that.
I didn't do that.
Okay, let me rephrase it again. So let's ask this to people on the street. Do you use algebra for your accounting every day? No. So you're saying to me you bought the record. Listen, Bruce, I want this.
Exactly. And then we would fiddle with knobs and see if it come out. Yes, that's it. We're getting it. We're getting somewhere. But we would just spending time on the drum sound, getting the drums right was like a 5-hour thing, Doing a record today is 5 hours. Doing the whole fucking record today is 5 hours. I don't spend 5 hours on drums anymore. I get them from a thing and drop it in. It's not, I don't go into a room and and bang my feet because I want my feet to go throughout the song. And when we were in London, I brought my own engineer. I brought Bruce over, and we had bottles in the studio, and we were going ring to the bottles and ring. Just the creativity is not what it used to be. It can't be. Technology has made it too simple, and that to me is a downer. It just doesn't make. I'd rather be in the studio 24 hours than 5 hours, to be totally honest with you. Because to me, you make a perfect record that way.
Well, now it's made to the point where you can leave the record where it was and come back in 10 years and it's right where, and it'll sound exactly the same way because it's digital now. The old days, if you didn't finish the record that day and you tried to recall it again, it never sounded the same. It just
Right.
never.
No, but actually sometimes the recall was good. A recall was a good thing because you come in with fresh ears. Fresh ears is a good thing. Don't underestimate the importance of fresh ears because there's plenty of times I did those 24-hour lockouts that I went home and I was like, oh no, I got to do a recall. I don't care if this is going to cost me money, but I'm going to take a cut on this.
Yeah, because the mix wasn't sitting right or something.
Right. It was sitting right after 24 hours and your ears are dead and needing more high end after I'm like pressing the high end button on the upper board and my engineer's slapping my hand and I'm like, no, it does. It needs more high end.
And then the recall is called and he looks at you and says, I told you that.
I told you.
And then you were like droopy dog.
But then you have the records like Pablo Toto that you did in 5 hours or 2 hours, and you did records with Blaze that we were in a 16-track room, all 5 of us piled into a room this big, working the board. You're ready to press on that thing, press. You know what I mean? Doing those live mixes. When you didn't have automation, there was no automation on that Blaze record. Was
that a D&D? You mixed that? Do you remember?
You know what? It was a very small studio. It wasn't Blank Tapes. It was like down the block from Blank Tapes. It was Curtis didn't give us a big budget for that.
Working on air. Basically work on an air, but we call that the air budget.
But the song was great. And just like another record I did for them, Carol and Harding, that record we did at Blank Tapes.
Move It On, right?
No, I did Memories. I did Memories. I never did Move It On. The other emergency record was Raw, Don't You Try It.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Larry used to kill that record.
Yeah. That's when Larry was like, who's this Freddy Bastone guy?
That's when Freddy Bastone's name was starting to become like, yo, what's that record? Who the hell's Freddy Bastone?
Exactly. Yeah, those are, it's funny that the bigger budget records, to me, the smaller budget records did more for my career than the bigger budget records.
Well, because those are the DJ records. Those are revered by the DJs. Those are the ones that rock. Like I hear If You Should Need a Friend, I think of you too. It's like those records make me go Freddie Bastone, like right away. Kevin Hedge. I think of the people involved.
Right. It's just like I've mixed all my idols. I've mixed Yes. I mixed Queen. I mixed everybody that you could imagine, and it comes down to those raw records, those raw, like you say, DJ records.
But the big money records are the ones, like you said,
Pay My Rent.
Judas Priest, yeah, those kept you living large at the time.
Yeah, and they also gave me good publicity. They gave me write-ups with Brian Chin and Billboard. And I remember I was a Billboard reporter at one time. Greg Riles used to call me up for my list. I love Greg, and Greg had a great ear. And he always was a Danceteria person. Before he went to the garage, he would come visit me, and he'd be like, I'd be like giving him all these imports that I'm charting. He's like, Freddie, you can't chart that. You can't. What's blamage? You can't chart that. Nobody's charting that. I said, that's what I'm playing, Greg. That's what I'm playing. That's what I play. He goes, all right. And then he wound up at Select Records, and he hired me for a bunch of mixes and productions and my own productions and stuff. I did a song called What About Love, which was a great hip hop record, hip house record. And it's not even on YouTube. I can't find it. And that I told you about my unit being drowned it in the storm in Ida with my records, my vinyl. Now I don't have a piece of vinyl of it. So
that sucks.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I lost most of my vinyl in Ida, the storm Ida. I will never go out with a girl named Ida. I will never name a child Ida. I will never speak to somebody named Ida.
Do you miss that era, Freddie? That era? Now, I mean, you're older now, but do you miss the whole, camaraderie and playing those big rooms like that? Because that just doesn't exist anymore in New York like that.
Without a doubt, I miss it. It's something that, if, like you say, it doesn't exist. And the thing that you miss about it is that you can't go there with 6 crates of records and play and give to the crowd what you want and to give back. I'm noticing that when I play, the crowds are like, when I just went to two clubs, like I said, over the past couple of weeks, from being at a movie premiere to going out, just going out. And the DJs don't seem to care to mix at all. So is it a lost art? Is that what we're talking about now? Is it really a lost art? Because don't tell me that, because that really blows my head.
No. Come on. No, that's just...
I know the Shelter just had a night that they sold out, so that must have been great.
No, there's still a lot of great parties. Like Danny Tenaglia and Victor Calderon played, and then you got Danny Krebitz doing his 718.
And then they got David DePino and Joey Llanos
for the Garage Union. No, I mean, no, come on. No, I played in Brooklyn.
And I got to say that David DePino and Joey are my particular, when I go out, I'll go out to hear them, because something about David, he, like I told you, it's a mood you're in. David is always in a good fucking mood. He is fabulously in a good mood, and he plays like it, and that mood goes into the dance floor, and Joey the same way. But it's just like when I used to go hear him at Tracks on Tuesdays, it's the same thing. I mean, I used to go up to him and thank him. Thank you for making me smile. You know what I mean? That's the way it should be.
But to give David DePino a lot of credit, a lot of house records in the end of Garage were broken because David played them in the early part of the night.
Well, he did. Well, we did "Love Your Life You Live" by Danny Extravaganza together. He did a mix, and he actually brought Danny to me. I mean, if it wasn't for David, I wouldn't have met Danny. Yes, he did break a lot of records early, but I was never there early. I was a late night guy.
Oh, he was already pushing the envelope, you know, like he was playing a lot of, like him and I would joke. I asked him about the Daryl Pandy record. He broke that record. He played it all the time because he was also playing at the balls too. Don't forget, he was part of House Extravaganza. Right. So a lot of things were going on in the scene in New York that was happening at those big clubs, but a lot of side things, all of you were involved in at that time too.
Right.
There's a lot of things going on.
Right.
Johnny Dynell was playing. There's a lot of great parties going on. Everybody talks about
Johnny Dynell is still playing. Johnny Dynell is like the DJ to the stars. He DJs for Elton. He DJs for Dolce Gabbana. He's DJing all over the place. I
know.
You know, and he's doing great still.
I saw him at the premiere. We went to go see Love Is a Legend, that film of the house.
Right.
I went to see him. He was there.
Yeah, he mentioned it on Facebook. I seen it. Yeah, that's great. Is he in the movie himself also?
You know what? Chi-Chi is.
I know Chi-Chi is. She looks fabulous in it, right?
Look fantastic. Yeah, he's playing the music. You know, we got to realize something. At the House of Fields, when they did that ball, he was DJing in the ball, the real video, which they're showing. So yes, he's in the movie. Yes, in essence. Okay. So speaking of you now, Everybody talks about they're going to Disney World tomorrow. Freddie, where are you going from here forward? Are you back looking to start playing music regularly again? I mean, besides and acting, or what are we doing now? Like, what's the plan? I know you're writing a script, we got that, but what's the next?
We're doing whatever comes naturally, whatever comes. As far as music, next week I do my first production in 6 months. I haven't been in the studio in 6 months, so I back in the studio next week, and it's a record that I just wrote, and I think it's going to be very good. I know it's going to be good. It's just a matter of getting it out there. It's just so many records come out a day now. It's just I go to Beatport and it's like, I also go to Beatport and I go to Juno to download my records, and it's just that it seems like so much comes out a day that you hope you get noticed. You know, if you don't have a big PR production behind you, which right now I don't have a big PR production. I've been told you got to get a social media person, and they're probably right. I do need a social media person because I can't keep up on TikTok and Instagram, and it's just not what I do. It's just not what I do.
Now imagine this. Imagine you were playing out like you were then and having all that social media to show everything. How crazy would that have been?
That's why I say I wish there was photos back then. That's why I say, man, the photos they could have took back then of us, whew, I'm kind of glad they didn't.
Yo, pass that this way. Oh, wait. No. He's taking a picture. As soon as the camera came out, everybody went.
Exactly. That's everybody's doing.
It's like, it's like somebody saying, yo, lower the music down, Freddie. The cops are outside. What, the cops?
That was the after hours. That's the after hours I used to play.
Freddie, lower it down. I got to talk to him outside.
Yep. Not lower it down. Shut it off.
Well, no, first it was lower it.
Yep.
Then kill it. Kill it.
Yep.
Freddie, you're unbelievable, man. You're unbelievable. You're still going strong. You're still going strong. You're a true legend to our game. We hope that you get a 6 to 7 figure deal on your screenplay. You know, I mean, your movie, that would be a wonderful thing. And you'll come back to tell us, of course. And I know you still have a lot more hit records to write. This is definitely inside you. This doesn't go away. This doesn't go away.
Thank you very much. I think there's a lot of music in me. I mean, the music is always in you, right? It's in your blood. It's been in my blood since I was a kid. So
you came out of your mom's womb with the drums playing. What the hell more than that?
Exactly. I used to, real quick, I know we got time. You got
plenty of time. Go ahead, keep going. If you got more, go tell us.
I used to walk out of my grammar school, which was down the block from my apartment building, and hear my father playing drums. That's how loud he was playing. So in my house, I really was coming out of the womb with drums in my head.
So your father's first name for everybody?
Freddie.
So Freddy Bastone Sr. was the drummer at Birdland for how many years?
I believe just 2. The house drummer. He played with Chet Baker. He played with Monk. Actually, Chet and Monk were at my apartment when I was about 6 years old. I remember it because my mother kicked them out of the house at around 7 a.m. I remember waking up to my mother screaming at men and a black gentleman and a white gentleman leaving, and my father telling me, "Do you remember your mother?" "Yeah, that was Chet and Monk. Your mother kicked out."
I assume something was going on. She didn't particularly care because she had little kids in the house. That's why.
Only one kid. I'm a single. I'm the only one.
So of course, the young Freddie shouldn't be seeing this type of behavior, basically.
Freddie should see these great artists. Are you kidding me? These are the greats. But that was them.
I got news for you. Not with the paraphernalia that was being passed around. And I'm guessing you're around He's 6 or 7 years old around that time. This is not for a child to see. Sorry.
Well, I wasn't up until she screamed.
What y'all doing in here? Y'all gotta go. Get out of my house.
This is my house.
It's my house. It's my house. You come up in here eating all our food and shit. Get the hell out of here.
Well, speaking of food,
Are
my
you
father owned a restaurant.
I was going to ask you, you all Italian, complete Italian?
No, my mother is Swedish and Italian.
You got some Swedish in you. So your father owned an Italian restaurant. Where was this restaurant?
In the Bronx, by the Parkchester area.
What was it called?
Patsy's. Not the same Patsy's as 56.
Wow. I was going to say, holy smoke.
No. Not the same Patsy's, but we were there first. We were there. But back then, copywriting and everything wasn't a big deal. So they opened up one on 56th Street. I believe there's another Patsy's in Harlem.
And how long did he have the restaurant till? Or
that lasted a very long time. It was my grandfather's, and it was my father's, and then my uncle's. So it went a very long time, about 30 years. So when the neighborhood went, there was a fire, bad fire.
Jewish pan fire?
Call it what you will.
Head fire.
You get too much truth out of me. You know what? This interview is too much. I never opened up so much to somebody. That's it. True house stories. This is really true house stories going on today. You really got me.
Well, then again, we're going to say right here, we're going to pause you and say thank you so much for being truthful and being so real.
Thank you.
It's like
it doesn't get me in trouble.
Nah, there's nothing here to get you in trouble. There's a 7-year look back. We're past that already.
Okay, that's good.
Can't be incarcerated for things that, it's actually more than probably 7 years. It's probably 30 years for you on some of these things, or 40, some of these things that we're talking about.
Yeah, we're going back.
It's hard to believe, and this is what I keep telling everybody, how fast the years are going.
1979 was the first 12-inch I bought. I had to look that up the other day to see when Herb Alpert released Rise.
I thought it was 1980 that came out.
No, 79.
The red vinyl? The red vinyl? The red clear?
Mine was clear.
Because I have the red version of it.
Mine was clear. Mine used to be clear. I don't know what it is now.
Well, Ida washed it away. Washed all your sins away, too, and all your dirt.
I still haven't had the nerve to go through my records to see which ones are salvageable and which ones aren't. Still haven't done that. I separated everything, but now I'm going to go, maybe today's a good day. I took off for this, so.
God bless you. Oh, my God. What a great interview. I want to applaud you for everybody, because I'll tell you, this is about as candid. And you know what? The good thing about it is, because we're all in the same industry, we can bring out the technical end. We can talk about the deeper stuff. Because if you're not in it, you don't understand what we're talking about. You just don't get it.
That's true.
And you got it. You've laid it all out. Hang on, Freddie. Let me just do this one thing I want to introduce for next week. We got the man behind Technotronic. Remember that pump up the jam? Pump it up. Eric Martin coming right here for you and all of us to hear another true house story of how that all came together from the UK side. Technotronic will be here next week. I should say that. Eric Martin, the guy.
I was there when that broke. I was in England when that broke. That record broke in England, and then it came over here. I was right there. Who breaks records like that anymore? Where does it happen to it?
Because the problem is there's too much material going on.
That's what I was trying to say before. When I go to Beatport, there's a new MK record. I want to hear it. But then there's 50 other records that
Yeah, but wait a minute, hang on. Wait. As you're doing that, you're multitasking and probably checking email, so you forget that you even saw that, and you just go, what the hell was I doing? Phone rings. And that's what happens. We're not doing what we used to do. You'd have your records, you open them up, you put them on the turntable, and you listen. And you were finding the version that worked for you, and you knew that's going to work for you and your crowd. Now you're just playing digital files. And if you're in a bad mood, it affects how you're listening to those records. They don't have the same effect. Yeah. It just doesn't have, I go, like today, I don't feel like listening to this crap. And it's not crap. It's just, it's too much.
Hey, mood, like I said, is everything. Your mood is everything, like I said before. And back then, I used to be in Rock Pool, and I used to be in Judy's Pool. For the record, I was in 2 pools, and I used to get, and then besides that, getting stuff sent to me from the UK, from record labels, from Gail Brusewitz,
because you're a tastemaker, dude. You're a tastemaker. You're breaking records. They want you to play their record,
right? Jane Brinton sending them, Brad sending them,
Bobby Short, MCA in those days, MCA.
Murray, just. You're getting them in the mail and you're getting it. So you're getting bombarded. But
they're calling you. And they're calling you asking, did you get my record?
Right. Now there's nobody calling you about these records. So you're just looking at a file and it has 2 mixes. And if like I said, that attention deficit thing, that there are 4 minutes to 30 seconds. I mean, what if I got to go to the bathroom? I used to put my 10-minute mixes on. I'd go to the bathroom. I had to go through the danceteria. I had to go through the dance floor. Or I'd go into a bottle of beer and place it where somebody could take it.
Like some DJs used to tell me, don't leave that booth because you may come back. You may not have a job.
Exactly.
That was rough in New York in those days. Real rough.
Hey, it was a very competitive. We were very competitive. All the DJs were competitive. But one thing I never did, is I never broke DJ etiquette. I never went to a club where there was somebody else playing and said, I want that job. I never did that. I know a lot of people did that to me, tried to do that to me. And I think now, I don't think there is that kind of etiquette. I think
because it's going by how many followers you have.
Right. It's not about how you play; it's how many followers. That's even getting into the acting game. It really is.
All algorithm, Bill. It's all algorithm based. Everything's algorithms and who's around you, who's pushing your stuff.
I got great Facebook numbers, but I don't know what my Twitter and Instagram thing. That's why I got to hire somebody. You have somebody?
Yeah.
All right. Tell me the name later.
Well, we'll talk later. I'll hook you. Don't worry about it. I took care of Marsha Stern too, and she was very happy.
Oh, really? You spoke to Marsha Stern?
Yeah. She was on the show with Robbie.
Really?
Yeah, her and Robbie.
Marsha.
Yeah, Marsha's good people. She worked with my guy, and she built the whole Roy Thode site and everything. Yep.
Yeah, Marsha used to do the Palladium.
Yeah, she's the light. She was the light woman. So when you're saying about the light show, I know who was working next to you.
I had another light guy that was great when I worked the underground. John Contini used to hire me to play there, and I don't know his name, but he was a great light man. I'm trying to remember his name. Goddamn, I don't want to end like that, but fuck.
Is it Robert De Silva?
That's it.
Yeah, because I remember he worked for me as well at underground. I talk about that all the time. Robert De Silva. And Robert worked for Nicky Ciano and Larry.
Okay. Robert was great.
Bobby. They called him Bobby De Silva. Right, Bobby.
He loved working with me. We had such a blast working together.
Great light man. Great light man.
We have a great rapport working with each other. I shout out to him what I'm doing. And I love, Danceteria really didn't have a light guy on the second.
But Underground had the full piano board and mirror. Remember that?
Yeah.
So he'd be able to control. They had the one thing about it was Richard Long's system, but wasn't one of the better systems. It's just the lights were really dope in that room.
Right.
And the way it was a narrow room, it was still good.
I didn't have a problem with the sound there. I didn't have a
Let me
problem.
put it like this. If you were to take that club the way it is and set it up now, it'd be the best in the game.
Oh, without a doubt.
But back then, when you're going up the Goliaths and all the other dinosaur clubs like Palladium, Garage, this club, that
It was
club.
definitely top 10. It was top 10.
But I'm saying it wasn't like Louis Vega and I said this all the time. Back then you had 22 ministries of sound in New York City.
Yeah.
It was just like that. And each one was worse, but they were all great. And they all, Garage is the greatest of the sound, but Studio, Palladium, this club, 4Ds, they all have fantastic elements, lighting, sound. You don't have that now. It's all built on bottle service.
Yep.
That was when it all ended.
I hate sounding like getting off my grass guy, but that bottle service thing killed the way a vibe is in a club. You know what I mean? Killed the dancers, like the real dancers that go to clubs. You don't see that. You don't see people putting on capizios at the club. Danceteria, they used to come into the DJ booth and put their capizios on and go back out.
And they want to dance all night. It's different. It's a different world. It's a different world. Different world. Even putting powder down on the dance floor, you can't do that now.
Right. You get sued.
Yeah. We used to put the powder down and slide all over the powder. Made the night even better. You smell the baby powder. You smelled. There was two smells. I always talk about this. Baby powder and ether, because they were freebasing or getting high. You knew the smell. It's like it was pre-crack. Then when crack came out, you knew what that smelled like. But the two smells in the room, ether, cigarettes, of course, because everybody smoked back then, right. and baby powder being pushed around, and everybody in those wrestling boots, the high boots.
Yes.
Yeah, and high boots. Remember those? The high boots, or boxing, the boxing ones, and those.
The boxing boots. I used to have a couple of pairs.
And the Huevo pants.
Yeah.
The Huevo pants. And that was the gear. If you went to Garage, you went to, that was the gear.
Yeah.
And I had my kamikaze shirt on. I had my bandana. That was the look back then. I remember it like yesterday. Now everybody's like in.
Everybody looks the same. Has the same haircut. You go online, you look at the line on the street, and like, I don't want to go there. Everybody looks the same, you know.
The Huevo pants were the way to go, or Chinese slippers, or whatever it was back then. They
say everything comes back around. Let's see.
Oh, baby, I need it too. I can't wait for that to come back, because I'm telling you, I'm ready to get on a plane. I'm ready to go play again around the world. I'm ready to go. I mean, I've been watching some of our friends. They're back playing, but they're going through a lot to play. Quarantining to go across the ocean. I mean, it's just like, it's a mess right now, but it'll get better.
Yeah, it will. It will.
It will get better. Everyone, good night. Thank you, Freddie Bastone. As they used to say, the Master Mix Dance Party mixed by Freddy Bastone. Hot 103.
Thank you, Freddie. Thank you so much.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Freddie. Stay with me. Everyone, good night around the world. See you all next week.